I'm going to talk about silence. Simply because many times you have discussions about all sorts of ideas, especially in spirituality, in Buddhism, in religion, and many people have so many different ideas of even what Buddhism is, what spirituality is, the roles of monks and nuns and lay people, and how our Buddhist center should develop. But a lot of the times we miss out. There's so much time talking, so much time thinking. We miss out just the beautiful silence, which is almost an essential part of the spiritual life, the holy life, the peaceful life, the Buddhist life. And that silence is where we found many answers. So much I was brought up as a thinker, because I went to school, I went to university, and was taught how to think logically. One of the nice things about that was just to learn, especially as, please excuse me, this is personal experience, from doing things like theoretical physics, quantum theory and the stuff. It didn't make sense, but actually it was true. And that was something which confounded me for weeks and months. How can people believe something which was self-contradictory? That's how it seemed to me. But what it did teach me is that it wasn't that what I was being taught was wrong, but my mind was not wide enough to understand it. And it showed me the importance that if you want to understand truth, sometimes we can't see it, we can misunderstand it, can mistake it, simply because our mind is not ready for it yet. We need to expand our conceptual framework so that we can understand it. And a lot of that is with our language. Our language is very limiting. That's one of the reasons why it's great to be able to learn a couple of languages if you're a young kid or something. Not just similar languages, but totally different languages. Yeah, as a kid I learned things like Latin and French as well as English, but they were just so similar. To learn a different language like Laotian, for example, that actually gave you a totally different way of looking at things. And that just showed how you can expand your understanding. But the best understanding comes again with that spiritual training. Spiritual, why do I call it spiritual? Because what we're doing there, we're not just looking at this bodily stuff, not just the brain, but the mind. That sixth sense. I often focus on this because this is part of just how I learnt, as even in things like theoretical physics, the existence of a mind which is independent of the 5 external senses. There's 5 external senses of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting and touching, and this thing we call the mind. And every now and again that mind just bubbles to the surface and just shows you how limited our ideas and conceptions and understanding are about life. And every time when that happens, sometimes people say it's an anomaly. It's just sometimes doesn't fit. But it's rare, it's true. There's one philosopher which I remember reading, and he was once talking about things like reincarnation, rebirth, whatever you wish to call it, the fact that you've lived before, you live again. And he said the truth of that, and he wasn't a Buddhist, he was in some university in the United States, a Caucasian, and he said, look, there's some research which has been done, the evidence is honest, truthful. It's done in a very meticulous way. And especially stuff done by Professor Ian Stevenson. And he said when he read that, he realized that such a thing happens. There is some cases of rebirth, reincarnation. But, he said, how it happens, he was confounded. It didn't make any sense to him. But the evidence was compelling that there were people who had been reborn. They remembered stuff from their previous lives. And you couldn't contradict that. It wasn't made up. It was challenging. How on earth can that happen? But it did happen. Remember him giving the simile. It's like a person is just over in the, let's say by the beach in Scarborough, and then suddenly they appear here. How on earth can that happen? It just doesn't fit any physical law. But it happened. And you cannot deny it. You cannot deny the truth of things happening just because you cannot explain why it happened. And that's actually part of the science which I grew up with. And then we start to look at the nature of just this body and this mind. And it's the mind part which gives us a spirituality. It's the mind part which gives us the things like the power of compassion and kindness, the power of stillness, the power of silence, to get to know what those things really are, and know the benefits of those. Even with just little things like physical health, because so often when people do meditate, what do I mean by meditate? They're calming their five senses down. Their body, which is the body is just a manifestation of the five senses, is what the five senses use to play around in this world. But the mind is a totally different thing, and it's powerful and beautiful. For example, just so many times on meditation retreats, when people calm their body down and they start to get into some silent states of mind, you get some fantastic experiences they have. One of them, which I just recalled, just came to my mind, was that some lady who complained after the meditation finished. She said her body was really hot. I said, all over? She said, no, just my shoulders. She said, they were very, very warm. And sometimes if you have a fever, so your whole body is hot. She said, it was not a fever, it was actually quite pleasant, but really hot. And I asked her where. She said, on my shoulders and neck. And that's when I asked her, so when did you have your car accident? And I remember that because I'd like a sense of humour. And she said, Ajahn Brahm, I never told anyone that. You've read my mind. You can read minds. Because when you're a senior monk, you've been around a while, people think you have powers and they're waiting to find some evidence. And I said, no, it's not powers of reading your mind, it's just logic. Because I know that that's the most common injury to the neck and shoulders. It's a car accident, whiplash. You just had this heat in that part of your body. It's actually what the body does to heal itself. The image, there's so many different ways of looking at the body. I remember even they actually tried to test out, I think the Dalai Lama's doctor, who looked at life in a totally different way according to Tibetan medicine. And he just said to this patient in the hospital, he's got blockages of energy. The energy is blocked around here somewhere. And of course, he was describing in his own words like a person who had cardiac problems. You never suggest it like that in modern medicine, but that was the words they described, the blockage of energies. In the Pali tradition, there's the Indian tradition, they said that winds get blocked in the body. Winds in the body, just like there's no air in the body except in the lungs, it's just like passages of energy get blocked up, and that causes inflammation, pain, disease, whatever. And your job is to release those passages of energy, winds in the body. And so, so much in Chinese tradition, the qi, the energy going through the body. Little by little, we respect different languages and different ways of looking at the same thing. And you can feel that happening in your body, because when you focus on the body, it's very hard to let it be, to let it go. But when we learn how to meditate, we let go of this body, this physical body, allow the sense of sight to disappear, sound not to disturb us, smells, tastes, and then physical touch to disappear. That's why when I come out of a meditation, the body feels so peaceful and just really relaxed. It doesn't feel as good as that just for the whole rest of the day, except when you come out of meditation, because you know how to just really relax it very deeply. And if there is any problems in the body, any injuries which need healing, you can actually feel them yourself as like hot spots in the body. And if you do feel a hot spot in the body, well done. And then I taught that for such a long time. It does work, even with people who do have, not for everybody, but for cancers and stuff. Feel hot spots in your body. Only one part of the body, and it's usually a tumour which is growing there or just started or something going on there. And you feel it. And you feel that afterwards you feel so much healthier, so much stronger, so much fitter. And it's not just with things like cancers or injuries. It's things like COVID, indigestions, food poisonings, scrub typhus, all these other things which I've used this method for. You get yourself really peaceful. And either just you get so still and so peaceful, so silent, that when you come out afterwards, that you feel energy and health, and things like scrub typhus fevers going, and other things disappearing. It's not the only way. But what it does, it shows you there's another way of looking at the health of your body. The other way of looking at the benefits of spirituality. And even more than that, there are, as senior monk, it's great if I could just retire from the committee and be the ex-spiritual director. But I know that's a difficult thing to be able to do. But a lot of the time when you have to make a decision, I was thinking, how do you make decisions as a spiritual leader? How can you see a different way of looking at things? And that's actually where the silence and stillness really start to come to the fore. So often in life you have to make a decision, and some of those decisions are quite difficult, controversial even. Some people may not agree with you, they may think, that you can do it another way. But a lot of the time if I have to make a decision about something, I make sure that I meditate first of all and make my mind really still. Really still. So you don't think about it at all. So you're sitting in there, eyes closed, you're not thinking, your brain isn't active, but your mind is still and growing in its energy. And when it grows in its energy, it also grows in its power. You can actually see deeper into things. And that's why that so often I tell people that when you do meditation, and you really do it properly, you get into it, there are little signs which it tells you that just how powerful this is. The time so often when you'd open your eyes and what you'd see is much more than was there beforehand. I don't know how many times that I've meditated here, sitting in this seat, You open your eyes afterwards, after meditation is completed, and you look at the carpet. And I mentioned, I think last week, that this carpet has not been changed since we actually constructed this hall. Same old carpet. I don't know how long that is, about 30 years I think, probably. 25 years maybe. But you think, oh, this, can't we change it? But I love this carpet because after a while you really get to know it in a deeper way than you'd ever expect. All the different colours, little specks which are there, and the pattern of it. Because after a while, when you start to meditating, it's like things open up to you. I'm not going crazy, I'm not a mad monk, I don't take drugs. A lot of times, when some of my friends started to take drugs, when I was a student, I said no, I don't need them. You watch a carpet and it opens up to you. Simply because the meditation allowed your mind to become so strong and so even courageous. When you start to see, you can see deeper into things, and you can keep your attention there much longer. It doesn't go all over the place. Because when you look at something, you can see it, and it does look beautiful. When I say to people how beautiful this carpet is, Ajahn Brahm, it's about time you retire. But I look at it, it is beautiful. That's how it feels. When you have stillness in your mind, not only do you see and smell and taste, sometimes people think, oh monks, you mix everything up in your bowl sometimes. But sometimes your taste buds get so totally expanded after you've had a good meditation. I've told this story before, the monks know it very well, but just after I did a retreat, a self-retreat over in Bodhinyana Monastery, just a couple of weeks, which I do every rains retreat. In the morning, just the breakfast which I had some baked beans. And I just put one baked bean, the first thing I tasted after my retreat. Just one baked bean in the mouth. It blew my mind, honestly. It was incredible. The taste of one bean in your mouth. And that was just from a can from the supermarket. It wasn't done by some great chef, but the point was, my mind was just so open and so sensitive that you could taste every flavour which was in that bean. And then I remember just crunching it with my teeth very slowly, and the texture of it. Have you ever noticed the texture of a bean? It was like soft, but it wasn't just like an ice cream or something. It was delicious. It was it had a texture to it, a little bit hard places, and other places were soft. I remember just biting into it, and wow. And because I've been a monk a long time, I know what meditation is. You know that this isn't being crazy. This is just what you miss when the mind is tired, what you miss by rushing too much. I remember even I did a lot of meditation when I was a student, and sometimes when you take someone out for dinner sometimes, you'd ask them, shut up please. This is an expensive meal. And I just want to get every bit of taste out of this. Because when you go talking, thinking, complaining, you miss so much. So I've told many people that if you're taking your partner out for a meal at an expensive restaurant, the more expensive the restaurant, the more important it is to tell your partner to be quiet. So you can get your money's worth. If you want to have a discussion or something, just go to McDonald's or something, or just any place, because you don't really taste the food then. And little by little, the sensitivity which you can create in your five senses is enormous. And that's why when that sensitivity does really grow, you train it. Just simple meditation, being aware, being kind, and feeling just the sensitivities grow so great, you know your own body. You can actually feel it. And so if there is anything wrong there, you know it straight away. You don't need a scan from a machine. You do that yourself. And when you start to feel your body, you also feel just how to heal it. And sometimes you feel that things start to flow through there again. You start feeling it settles down and relaxes. That idea of relaxation, peace, stillness, openness, as a great means of being healthy, is enormously powerful. Because sometimes that if you go to doctors, you go to surgery or something, sometimes that is just so aggressive, for want of a better word. Please excuse me, because sometimes it's great to do amazing things, but the softness of spirituality, the calmness, the kindness, that is enormously healing for the mind, and it's also great healing for the body as well. Just being able just to relax and be at ease. So little by little, we find that sensitivity and that ability just to relax and be kind enormously helps a person's health and well-being. That's your own body. And what about living with somebody else? To be able to feel safe with your partner, to be able to relax with them, to be able to be kind to them. And not just kind to them, but kind to the relationship. It's not perfect, your body's not perfect, but you can be so kind and so peaceful with it. That spirituality, you can start to feel that your communication starts to flow, the blockages are unblocked. You can hear, you can feel, you can know. And that becomes a beautiful way of living together, living with your own body, living with others. So little by little, the meditation can sometimes open your heart and your mind. But also, again, whenever there's any problems which I have to solve, so often I try not to give an answer yet, but just allow it to stay with me and make the mind really peaceful. Really peaceful. Don't even think about it. And after you emerge from the quietness, from the stillness, you have an answer. But an answer which is unique, intuitive, which hasn't been said before. Yes. It's not something which comes from your learning. It's one of the reasons why, many years ago, and the origin of this little saying came from when I was visiting UK, and I heard that there was a Buddhist group of soldiers in the military. And I thought, this is weird. How can there be Buddhists fighting in Iraq or Afghanistan? And I thought, it can't be real Buddhists. They must be like people just working in the dentist surgeries or in the accounts. Just like many years ago, we had a monk in Bodhinyana monastery, and he was a Gurkha, a real Gurkha from Nepal. And, the Gurkhas used to say, it's one of their sayings, you know when the Gurkhas have been, when you wake up in the morning and you shake your head and it falls off. That's really aggressive. But, he was a real Gurkha. And I said, and you're a Buddhist monk, how do you manage that? And he said, well, he was a Gurkha, but he worked in the accounts department. He was a very lovely man. But So he never killed anybody, or was not violent. It was just a way of making a living for his family before he became a monk. But anyway, just when I heard that there was these British soldiers and they were having a meeting, I wanted to find out, how can you be a soldier and be a Buddhist at the same time? And I found out that they were front-line soldiers in Iraq and Afghanistan with guns. And then afterwards I remember telling them, look, I learned so much from listening to them. And there's a saying which I've said many times, never allow your learning to stand in the way of truth. Truth is something different than learning. Truth is different than what you read in the books. Because the books are generalizations. This is the truth of someone actually living their life. You may think it's impossible, but you talk with them and you learn so much. The uniqueness of a human being. You cannot generalize it and put it into a series of rules. So never allow your learning, your knowledge, your theories, your religions, never allow any of that to stand in the way of truth. It's obviously some of the best descriptions of truth you can have, but real truth is something much more powerful, deeper. So little by little, I allow that to happen. What I do is, when you've got a moral decision to make, any decision, you make your mind really, really still. I've been doing that for years, so I can do that pretty easy. And afterwards, what comes out afterwards is unexpected. Unexpected, but incredibly powerful and true and helpful. One of those examples, it's, please excuse, I think you've heard the story before, I think it's even in one of the books. That was when I was teaching in Malaysia. And so they said there was one of their friends, a friend of a friend, who had been to many psychologists and counsellors, and no one could help her. So Ajahn Brahm, can you give it a try? And I'm always willing to help. And I know that because of meditation, sometimes you can see things or do things or say things which other people can't. So it was a middle-aged woman, and I just listened to her. What I heard was just disgusting. She'd been very violently raped. It's a terrible thing. But I was peaceful, non-judgmental throughout the whole of her account. And then what came out of my mouth afterwards shocked me. I can't say it disgusted me because I was open and not resisting anything. I was never allow my learning to stand in the way of truth. What I said to her, it just came out of my mouth, was, "You're so lucky to have been raped like that." What a thing to say. But it came out by itself. Not sort of premeditated at all, never planned that, it just came out. And then I realized why I said it. Because she was looking for meaning. Imagine what you've had, this terrible, terrible experience, so painful. Why? The answer to the question, why? And I said, because look at you standing here, or sitting here. You've got some strength, incredible strength. You're going to find a way out of this. That's never happened to me. I don't know what it feels like. There's no way I can judge it. But for you, when you come out of this, you'll be able to do something I will never ever be able to do. You'll be able to put your arm around somebody who's been through exactly what you've experienced, or worse, or similar, and say two things. Number one, I know how you feel. I can't say that. And number two, you can say, I know the way out. Take my hand. I'll lead you out. What a wonderful gift that is, to be able to do that for others. I can't do that. That's why those words came out. Please, I'm not just judging you or feeling superior to you or anything like that. I did that because sometimes when you're silent, weird answers come out, which actually work. And what's it like when tragedy happens to you? Say, why? Why does this happen? When you give something a meaning, a powerful meaning, which people can see and they can feel, and it gives them something to do, some way out, some meaning, some purpose. Imagine that power. She's really happy afterwards. So little by little, I've found I trust that silence, and some of the stupid words which come out afterwards, I've found are much wiser than I ever thought. And I've done that such a lot, and taught that such a lot. And one of the people I often quote was this lady years ago. She was very highly educated, Thai lady, and she had this terrible, terrible, terrible job. The job she had was she had to sign off on people who she had to give the final judgment were, in her opinion, not capable of looking after their kids. And once she signed that document, the children would be taken away from their parents. And some parents who were just so addicted to drugs, so maladjusted, that she thought she had no choice. So she had to sign that document. Imagine just the responsibility of taking young kids away from their parents. That's really tough. And so when she came on one of these retreats, which I taught, she came late because she had so much work to finish off. And this is sort of job you can't neglect. If you just think, oh, I'll make the decision next week, the kid might die then. Or you take the kid away and just creates huge amounts of trauma in the future for them. So it was a very highly responsible job. But what she did, she came on this retreat which I taught. And after 3 or 4 days, she was a very good meditator. And so what happened, that towards the 3 or 4 days after the retreat, she'd totally forgotten about her job. She was really relaxing. She knew how to relax. She knew how to let go of that responsibility so she could rest and make her mind peaceful and healthy. And then she was just meditating one day, and then when she came out of meditation, all these incredible good ideas came. Unique ideas. Ideas, solutions which you can't think out, which suddenly you just see. I don't know if you've ever had those experiences. You have a difficult situation, what can I do? And you keep thinking about it, and you get nowhere, you just get a headache. But if you can put it aside and allow the mind to be still and silent, to use that spiritual part of the mind, it's amazing just what wisdom lies there. It's not what you've been taught. It's not what you've learnt. It's not what people have written in books. But my goodness, it's powerful and it works. She came with all these amazing solutions. And she went to her room, wrote them down, told me about it afterwards. I'm not going to act on them now, I'm still on a retreat. But when she went back to work, she enacted those, and they were powerful, wonderful solutions. And I know that that's one of the great ways of using spirituality. How does it work sometimes? You see much deeper, but also you access not just what you've learned in this lifetime, or you've accessed and learnt in previous lifetimes as well. if that is true, that you have lived before, why can't we remember all that stuff? Because it's nothing to do with the brain. It's to do with the mind. A different thing, the sixth sense. And this is what we do as Buddhist monks. We develop that mind. Develop that chitta, as they call it. And so I'd be able to access that every now and again. At least to get some sort of ideas and messages. I don't mean sort of, being weirdos. I just mean be able to see deeper and to know more things than you've learnt in this life. And this is not just weird stuff. It's powerful because it does work. And that's what I've done many times. So often we need to know how to listen instead of talk to ourselves. To be aware in silence rather than thinking. Because that thinking just makes a lot of mess for ourselves. Even just recently, I was just talking to one gentleman, and he said he's had such a hard time keeping his mind still, always thinking about stuff. A lot of times because of guilt, because of stress, trying to please other people, and how can you do that? And just got used to thinking so much. And how can we actually learn how to be silent? And how we can do that, I told him to please learn how to listen, first of all with your ears. This is the sound of the fans. The sound of the traffic in the distance. During the daytime, the sound of the birds. If you go down to the beach, sometimes that's a bit too noisy. The ocean is very violent sometimes. You find out like a lake, a pond or something, that's much softer, more peaceful. But if you listen rather than thinking, after a while, those thoughts get so weak that you can close your eyes, you can listen to your body and listen to your mind rather than talk back at it. It's like nature is always teaching us. It's always giving a sermon, much better than I can ever give. But if we're talking, we miss what nature's teaching us. And we trust it. It's not intuition. It's almost just like life is teaching us. We're silent enough to listen to it and understand it. And we get so many great teachings that way. So many great teachings of even the nature of beauty. I remember just talking at length about this, and this one fellow, he works at CERN, that's the big atom smasher. We shouldn't call it atom smasher, it's just an experiment over a huge thing over underneath Switzerland, France and places. And a very highly intelligent Buddhist physicist or experimenter or whatever. And he was saying he always wondered the nature of beauty. Beauty is a spiritual thing. It's not a material thing. And what is beauty? What do you think is beauty? And a lot of times that we just invest so much in beautifying ourselves, beautifying our homes, beautifying our cars, beautifying our gardens, beautifying our country, beautifying our Buddhist center. Well, what is beauty? And a lot of times we miss. Beauty is not in the eye of the beholder. Beauty is in the mind. And after a while, you can see anything. And stories like the beautiful carpet in front of me here, which most people say, that's just so ordinary. That's beautiful. Come on, Ajahn Brahm, get a life. But when you can see this carpet as beautiful, because you spiritually developed your mind. You can see your grandma, this beautiful woman, even though she's really old. You can see someone who's been deformed by some bad accident as beautiful. And you mean it. You're not just seeing part of them, seeing the whole of them. You can see somebody who's beauty in places you never expected. You see beauty in yourself. You're old, you're tired, worn out. See beauty in yourself when you're in prison for some bad things you performed. Imagine that. Prisoners who've been on a long sentence can still see the beauty in themselves. And it's real. They're spiritually awakening themselves and realizing they're much bigger than things, or one or two or three really, really, really bad acts. They're much bigger than that. So this spirituality, once you start being silent, it opens up to so much more avenues for wisdom, for health, for love. What is love? Love should also be part of spirituality. It's a mind thing, not a body thing. Well, there's a body type of love, just for procreation. Somebody turns you on. But what about something much deeper than that? The ability just to see a person, not an object. See a being. And have this beautiful love for them, no matter what they are. That story of my father. The door of my heart is open to you, no matter who you are, no matter what you do, no matter how you turn out, son. It's one of the most powerful sayings. Your father teaching you that you are totally safe. He would never take his love away from you, no matter what you do. Have you ever done that to your partner? Say, partner, no matter what you do, even if you die on me, the door of my heart's open. I love you not to control you or to own you or to possess you. I will let you go. The greatest act of love is to let someone go. Things like that just move the goalposts, as they say, and you just see just solutions where you never thought there could be ones. There's beautiful acts of love. And after a while, you start to understand what these things are. Forgiveness. Why? They don't deserve to be forgiven, but I'm going to forgive anyway. I'm going to be kind no matter what. No matter what I've done. No matter what I've said. I meant well. We still have that great forgiveness, that kindness. And that is something which is real spiritualism. Spirituality, whatever you call it. That's real, just what religion, what meditation should always be about. Not theories. Or what is better, a bodhisattva or an arahat? Or whatever. And that is just, you can argue at length like that, but what does it do? Just people have other arguments. I've never ever really been able to convince anybody just by arguing with them. Even though I know I'm right. Trouble is, they know they're right too. So instead of doing that, we just go deeper into this thing called spirituality. Go into silence. Get the mind really strong and see things and see beauty and see truth. And what you read in books, it can be close. But it's never as truthful as when you experience things for yourself. With peace, with stillness, with power. That's one of the reasons why. Yeah, we can write books. We can discuss books. Can you discuss peace in your meditation? discussions destroy the peace. We try and contain it, you lose it. Real truth, real wisdom is shy. You say its name and it runs away. You destroy it. Real truth, real peace is to be known in silence. Never give it a name. I've already gone on a bit long, so I'm going to finish now. Thank you all for listening.